son was attacked by Trayvon Martin and puts his spin on the night in question. Tonight, we'll go through the details and see how they match up with the police surveillance video.
When we looked at the video, it was obvious that there were no visible injuries.
Trayvon Martin's parents speak out on the Sanford police surveillance video.
I believe that this video is the icing on the cake.
Martin family attorney Natalie Jackson will respond to the police video and Robert Zimmerman's interview.
I never foresaw so much hate coming from the president.
And Zimmerman's father thinks the president's comments on Trayvon Martin were hateful. Tonight, Al Sharpton is here to respond. Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. George Zimmerman's father, Robert, has come forward to make a case for his son's defense in the arena of public opinion. Part of his strategy is pushing anti-President Obama right-wing rhetoric. Zimmerman has gone so far as to characterize the President of the United States as a hate merchant.
I never foresaw so much hate coming from the president, the Congressional Black Caucus, the NAACP, every organization imaginable is trying to get notoriety or profit from this in some way. But there's so much hate.
Any sane person knows it's absolutely outrageous for Robert Zimmerman to accuse President Obama of anything other than compassion. The president's statement about Trayvon Martin could not have been any more clear.
I think all of us have to do some soul searching to figure out how does something like this happen. And that means that we examine the laws and the context for what happened, as well as the specifics of the incident. But my main message is to the parents of Trayvon Martin. You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. And, you know, I think they are right to expect that all of us as Americans are going to take this with the seriousness it deserves, and that we're going to get to the bottom of exactly what happened.
That comment made by the president last Friday, but we have to play that tonight for clarity. Where's the hate? There is none. The president clearly felt for the parents of a lost son, and he voiced his support for finding out what really happened the night Trayvon Martin was shot. But Robert Zimmerman is in denial. He is feeding off people like Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum, who accused the president of dividing the country by commenting on the case. Zimmerman is trying to gin up support for his son by feeding the right-wing beast. The retired magistrate stated, no question about it, factual errors in his interview with the Fox station that he did an interview with. And he speculated on the length of a confrontation. How would he know? So Zimmerman's best defense is to play into the hot political rhetoric that permeates through this country. Not only have we seen Zimmerman try this tactic, but activists helping the family have also been targeted for criticism. But Zimmerman is playing this card. Robert Zimmerman knows that half the country doesn't like the President of the United States, so he makes him the target, the Congressional Black Caucus and the NAACP, and anyone who speaks out in favor of justice. We know things about this case. Was it a drive-by shooting? We know who did the shooting, and the American people want justice. But to claim hate, to try to gain favor, is about as low as it gets. And to claim hate to garnish sympathy is something that I just haven't seen play out in the media ever. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question: did Robert Zimmerman's comments about President Obama cross the line? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. You can go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com and leave us a comment. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. Joining me tonight is Reverend Al Sharpton, host of Politics Nation here on MSNBC. Reverend, great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Your thoughts of what you just heard in that interview with Robert Zimmerman targeting the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, the NAACP, and the president, and using the term hate?
Well, I think, first of all, it is absolutely pathetic to try to accuse the president's statement as being hateful. I think that the president was trying to show compassion to two parents as a parent for losing their son. And he said, we have to find out what happened. He didn't even say any conclusion of what he thought had happened, didn't suggest it. He gave his compassion to a family who lost their son. There's no question about a son was lost. And I think any father would say that if you wanted to comment on the situation, because there's no question that a life was lost. But this whole playbook that we see from the right wing, not only from Zimmerman's father, who's feeding into that as a father, fine, let's put him aside. But this whole thing of attacking those that want to stand up and say that there are things here that don't appear right, this is not the president, this is activists like us, I think is their way of trying to distract from the issue. The issue there is they made statements that does not seem to square with the law. Probable cause is probable cause. All we've said is he should have been arrested. And then all these other comments that have come after that call, the tapes clearly do not in any way validate what they said. Let me be clear. When I was called into this case, called National Action Network and I, Attorney Crump, on behalf of the family, we came in because they were asked, because they asked us to come in because they said a civil rights they felt was violated. We would have been irresponsible not to come in and see if, in fact, there was a civil rights violation. We felt that probable cause not being regarded was a civil rights violation. That's what you do. But if you see a case, if it involves racism or homophobia or sexism, they attack those that respond rather than deal with the issue and the merits of the issue. Of course, civil rights groups are going to respond when a civil rights allegation is made. Of course, if you're in other areas of discrimination, that's what you do. And I think you don't answer it with venom, you answer it with fact. Clearly, we've denounced any kind of hate in this, and I don't think have engaged in hate and would denounce it if anyone would raise it.
Robert Zimmerman is a retired magistrate. He has experience with the law, which I find it so surprising that he is trying to build a case in the arena of public opinion, of defense, by blaming others. How lame is that?
I think it's very lame, and I think it doesn't, in the end, serve their point. You know, we're fighting a case in New York, Ramali Graham, young man killed in his own house by police. Police, rather than, and it's like the Trayvon case in New York, police will say you're anti-police. You're not anti-police. We work with police because we need to reduce crime in our communities. But rather than deal with issues, always in civil rights, always in human rights, always in discrimination, you kill a messenger. But to do this to the President of the United States, who's not even advocating like we are, it shows a callous disregard for what has happened here. A life was lost. Let's deal with that. And I think that Mr. Zimmerman would have done himself and his son better to say himself, we're sorry for the loss of life, but these are the circumstances as I believe it. Not to come with venom and attacks on the President of the United States.
I see it as some kind of a cat call. He's out there saying, hey, look, those of you who don't like the president, who have issues with the Congressional Black Caucus and the NAACP, you know, give me a little backup. I mean, that's how I think a lot of people are reading this. That's how I'm reading. I
think your reading is probably accurate. But again, I think that you've got to even separate those of us in civil rights, NAACP, National Action Network, from the president. The president is not advocating. We are. And part of being advocates, we take on all that. I expect I'm going to be attacked. I hope they attack us rather than the family. That's what we do. But the president clearly didn't get in the middle of making a judgment. He showed compassion for these two parents, something that all sides in this should do. They lost a son. That should be above and beyond everything else.
Reverend, I want to get your thoughts on the videotape that is now, of course, playing everywhere of George Zimmerman coming into the police house. What jumps out at you at this tape?
We were told that he had a broken nose. We were told he had his head smashed into the ground, that he was near the end of at the end of his life. He had to defend himself. Here you look at a tape. There are no visible injuries, certainly no blood anywhere. I don't know how you have a broken nose or even a badly bruised nose. No blood on the shirt, no blood on the jacket.
There's issues with the tape.
I mean, clearly, rather than answer the tape, they want to attack the president or attack those that have said there's probable cause here. Why wasn't an arrest made? According to what we're told now, the prosecutor drove from his house 50 miles to the police station and overruled the chief investigator who said arrest him. Is he going to say the chief investigator was engaged in hate? The chief investigator said arrest him. Was he full of hate? He was the one that investigated the case at the scene. So why don't we answer that, those that are saying what they're saying in terms of Zimmerman's father, rather than try to scapegoat others by going around issues they raised. We didn't say his nose was broken. We didn't say there should have been that he was bloodied. They did. When the tapes come out, police tapes, by the way, Ed, when the tapes come out and it's not there, you try to distract and go somewhere else.
Well, the police clearly knew who Trayvon Martin was after the shooting. They had ID'd him, yet he was listed as a John Doe for 3 days. Who's going to answer for that?
Listed as John Doe for 3 days, wouldn't release the body to the father. Why? Why would the chief prosecutor tell a witness, a mother, that I don't believe it's self-defense, I believe it's stereotyping? Was he full of hate? So let me get this right. The chief negotiator was full of hate. The fact that the one that came to the house and told the witness, the young boy's witness, mother rather, that this was stereotyping, he was full of hate. All of the civil rights groups that are saying probable cause, we're full of hate. Now the president is full of hate. By tomorrow morning, you'll be full of hate. Why don't we just deal with the fact, if you really love the country, you want the law to work equally for everybody?
And with that, Reverend Al Sharpton, thanks for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Remember to answer tonight's question there at the bottom of the screen and share your thoughts on Twitter at @EdShow. We want to know what you think. Coming up, George Zimmerman's father defends his son in an interview. We'll see how his story matches up with the facts with retired detective John Butchko. And later, I'll talk to Sanford City Manager Norton Bonaparte about the videotape and get his reaction to the latest investigation. Stay tuned. We're right back.